I stared at my phone screen in complete disbelief, reading the message for the third time. You have until Sunday to find somewhere else. Your sister needs the house more than you do. The words from my mother hit like a physical blow to my chest. It was Friday evening, and I was sitting in my modest one-bedroom apartment, scrolling through social media after another quiet day at my accounting firm. That's when I saw it. Madison had already posted renovation plans for what she called her new place, with excited captions about finally getting her dream Victorian home. The comments were pouring in with congratulations and heart emojis. Everyone assumed quiet, obedient Blaine would comply like the invisible middle child I had always been. They had absolutely no idea that I secretly owned the entire 3-story building they were trying to evict me from. Growing up as the middle child in our family meant becoming an expert at blending into wallpaper. Madison, now 30, had always been the golden daughter, with her perfect smile and natural charm. Even as kids, she commanded attention effortlessly, whether she was winning spelling bees or starring in school plays. Tyler, my younger brother at 25, held the coveted position of baby of the family. His artistic temperament and musical talents earned him endless patience and financial support from our parents. Then there was me, Blaine, the accountant, the boring one, the stable one who never caused problems or asked for anything. Madison had built quite the empire as an Instagram influencer, showcasing her glamorous lifestyle to over 200,000 followers. Her brand partnerships and sponsored posts painted the picture of someone living their absolute best life. What our family saw was success. What they didn't see were the constant financial bailouts our parents provided to maintain that image. Tyler lived rent-free in our childhood home's basement, surrounded by expensive recording equipment and vintage instruments. He spent his days creating music that would definitely take off soon, while borrowing money from anyone willing to listen to his latest composition. Our mother, Patricia, treated his artistic pursuits like sacred ground, never questioning where the money for his studio sessions actually came from. Meanwhile, I worked my steady job at Henderson and Associates, keeping my head down and my finances private. I drove a reliable Honda Civic, wore clothes from Target, and lived in a simple apartment that cost me $800 a month. To my family, I was the practical one who had everything figured out, which somehow translated to needing the least amount of attention or support. The family dynamics had shifted dramatically over the past few months. Madison's engagement to James, a wealthy contractor with his own renovation company, had ended badly. She'd lost her downtown loft, in the process a trendy space that had served as the backdrop for countless Instagram posts. The breakup left her scrambling for both housing and content, though she managed to spin it as choosing herself and embracing new adventures for her followers. Patricia, our mother, had immediately sprung into action. In her mind, family problems required family solutions, which apparently meant rearranging everyone else's life to accommodate Madison's needs. The Victorian house where I rented my apartment had been in our family for generations or so, I had always been told. It made perfect sense to Patricia that Madison should move into my space given that she needed the room for her business equipment and filming setups. What nobody in my family knew was that 3 years ago I had received a substantial inheritance from our grandmother Rose. She had always been fond of me, appreciating my quiet nature and work ethic. While Madison and Tyler were busy being charming and talented, I had spent countless afternoons with Grandma Rose, helping her with finances and home maintenance. When she passed away, she left me $150,000 with explicit instructions to Invest it wisely, and don't tell your parents until you're ready. I had done exactly that. When the Victorian building went into foreclosure due to unpaid taxes and mounting debt, I purchased it outright. For 3 years, I had been quietly collecting rent from the other tenants, while allowing my family to live rent-free. Mrs. Rodriguez in apartment 2A paid me $600 monthly. The college student Derek in the studio unit contributed $400. The young couple, Sarah and Mike in apartment 2B, managed $750 between their 2 jobs. I had never told anyone about the inheritance or the purchase because I genuinely wanted to stay invisible. Family drama had never appealed to me, and I knew that revealing my financial situation would create complications I wasn't ready to handle. It felt easier to maintain the status quo, helping quietly from the shadows, while everyone assumed I was just getting by like everyone else. But now, as I sat holding that devastating text message, I realized my desire for invisibility had created a monster. My family didn't just underestimate me. They had grown comfortable treating me like a doormat, assuming I would always comply with their demands without question. The real shock came when I opened Madison's Instagram story from earlier that day. She had already hired contractors from her ex-fiancé's former company and scheduled demolition of the wall between my bedroom and living room for Monday morning. She assumed I would be gone by then, clearing the way for her open-concept dream space. The story showed her excitedly discussing paint colors and furniture arrangements with someone named Sophia, who appeared to be an interior designer. My phone buzzed with another message from Tyler. "Dude, make sure you pack your gaming setup carefully. Madison said I can have it since you never play anymore anyway." Saturday morning arrived with the sound of multiple car doors slamming outside my building. I peered through my window to see Patricia climbing out of her silver SUV, followed by Madison and Tyler. Madison was carrying a stack of large shopping bags, while Tyler hauled what appeared to be measuring equipment from the trunk. Before I could process what was happening, my apartment door burst open without so much as a knock. Patricia had somehow acquired a key, though I couldn't imagine from where. "Good morning, sweetheart," Patricia announced, sweeping into my living room like she owned the place. "We're here to help you get organized for the move." Madison followed close behind, accompanied by a tall woman with perfectly styled blonde hair and an expensive handbag. "Blaine, this is Sophia. She's going to help me design the space once you're settled somewhere else." Sophia immediately began pulling a measuring tape from her designer purse, completely ignoring my presence as she started calculating room dimensions. "The lighting in here is absolutely divine," she gushed to Madison. "We can definitely work with this layout." Tyler had already made himself comfortable on my couch, scrolling through his phone while occasionally glancing at my entertainment center. "So, when exactly are you moving the Xbox?" he asked without looking up. "I want to set it up in the basement before my band comes over tomorrow." I watched in stunned silence as they began rifling through my belongings like I wasn't even there. Patricia started opening my kitchen cabinets, removing items and placing them in cardboard boxes she had apparently brought for this purpose. "Most of this stuff is just clutter anyway," she muttered, tossing my coffee mugs into a box marked "Donate." "You really don't need 4 different coffee cups for one person." Madison had moved into my bedroom where Sophia was measuring the windows for custom curtains. "This wall definitely has to go," Madison declared, pointing to the wall between my bedroom and living room. "Instagram stories need better flow, and this cramped layout just won't work for filming." "Madison." I finally managed to speak. "Those are my belongings you're packing up." She turned to face me with an expression of surprised patience, like I was a child who didn't understand adult conversations. Blaine, we talked about this. Well, Mom talked to you about this. You need to start thinking about what's best for the family instead of being selfish. Selfish, the word hit me like a slap. Tyler looked up from my couch. Dude, you've been hoarding money while we're all struggling. Madison lost her place, I can't afford studio time, and Mom's been stressed about finances for months. Meanwhile, you're sitting here in this nice apartment acting like you can't help anybody. Patricia emerged from my kitchen carrying my grandmother's antique mixing bowls. These are lovely, but Madison needs the cabinet space for her business inventory. I'll keep them safe at my house. Those belong to Grandma Rose, I protested. Rose would want them to be useful, Patricia replied dismissively. Madison can use them for her cooking content. You don't even bake. Sophia had moved into my living room where she was taking photos of the layout. We'll need to remove this wall as well, she informed Madison, pointing to the wall that separated the living area from the kitchen. Open concept is absolutely essential for content creation. The morning continued with my family systematically dismantling my life while discussing me like I wasn't present. Madison sorted through my closet, declaring most of my clothes outdated and not worth moving. Tyler had claimed my gaming chair in addition to the Xbox, explaining that his music career required comfortable seating for long creative sessions. Patricia had moved on to my home office where she was boxing up my financial documents and books. You won't need all these accounting materials in a smaller place, she reasoned. Tyler could use this desk for his songwriting. Around noon, the situation escalated further when Madison's new boyfriend, Brett, arrived. He was a muscular guy with sleeve tattoos and an attitude that immediately filled the room. Brett took one look around my apartment and nodded approvingly. A nice space, he told Madison. The master bedroom's got good size. I can fit my motorcycle in that back corner if we move some furniture around. Wait, I interrupted. You're planning to keep a motorcycle in the bedroom. Brett stared at me like I had questioned gravity itself. It's a vintage Harley, man. I'm not leaving it outside where it can get damaged. Madison linked her arm through Brett's possessively. It'll be fine, Blaine. You're worrying about details that don't concern you anymore. The breaking point came when they discovered my financial documents while packing my desk. Tyler held up my bank statements, whistling in mock amazement. Dude, look at this pathetic savings account, he announced to the room. $3,200 and you're acting like you can't help family. Madison grabbed the statements, scanning them quickly. This is exactly what I mean about hoarding money, she declared. You've got thousands just sitting there while I'm struggling to rebuild my brand. What they didn't realize was that those statements showed only my checking account, which I used for monthly expenses. My real investments and savings were managed through a different bank entirely, one they would never think to look for. Patricia took the statements from Madison, shaking her head in disappointment. Blaine, your father and I raised you better than this. Family takes care of family. The afternoon brought additional complications when other tenants began returning from their weekend activities. Mrs. Rodriguez from apartment 2A knocked on my door looking concerned about all the activity. Blaine, is everything all right? She asked in her gentle voice. There are so many people coming and going. Before I could answer, Madison stepped forward with her brightest influencer smile. Hi there, I'm Madison Blaine's sister. We're just helping him transition to a new living situation. I'll be taking over the lease here. Mrs. Rodriguez looked confused. But Blaine is our landlord. Shouldn't you be discussing this with him? Madison's smile faltered slightly. Landlord, I think there's been some confusion. This is family property. Derek, the college student from the studio apartment, had joined us in the hallway after hearing voices. Blaine's been great to all of us tenants, he said earnestly. When my financial aid was delayed last semester, he let me pay rent late without any penalties. I could see the wheels turning in Madison's head as she processed this information. Her eyes narrowed as she looked back at me with suspicion. What exactly have you been telling people about your living situation? She demanded. Before I could respond, she had spotted something that changed everything. On my desk, underneath some papers Patricia was packing, were building renovation permits with my name listed as the property owner. Madison snatched up the permits, her face turning red with anger. What the hell is this Blaine? Did you forge documents to make yourself look like the owner? The room fell silent as everyone stared at the papers in her hands. These have to be fake. Madison continued, her voice rising. There's no way you could afford to buy this building. You're trying to scam the landlord or something. Brett stepped forward menacingly. That's fraud, man. We could call the police right now. Tyler grabbed his phone. Should I call them? This is seriously messed up. As my family stood there threatening to have me arrested for owning my own building, I realized something fundamental had shifted. They weren't just treating me like an inconvenience anymore. They had convinced themselves that I was actively deceiving them, that my quiet nature was actually evidence of criminal behavior. The invisible middle child they had ignored for so long was about to become very visible indeed. Saturday evening brought what Patricia called a family intervention meeting in my living room. She had rearranged my furniture to create a circle, placing herself at the head like a corporate boardroom leader. Madison sat to her right, still clutching the renovation permits she was convinced were forgeries. Tyler lounged across from me, filming everything on his phone for what he called evidence. Brett had claimed my desk chair, spinning slowly while cracking his knuckles. His presence filled the room with uncomfortable tension, like a bouncer waiting for trouble to start. Blaine, Patricia began in her most serious voice. We need to have an honest conversation about what's been happening here. She pulled out a manila folder thick with documents I had never seen before. I've been trying to protect this family from some very difficult truths, but your behavior today has forced my hand. Madison leaned forward eagerly, clearly anticipating some dramatic revelation that would validate her anger. The truth is, Patricia continued, we haven't owned this building for over a year. We've been living here illegally. The words hung in the air like smoke. Tyler stopped filming, his mouth falling open. What do you mean, illegally? Madison asked. Patricia spread the documents across my coffee table. Your father made some very poor investment decisions before he died. He put the building up as collateral for a business loan that went bad. When he passed away 2 years ago, I thought I could handle the debt, but the payments became impossible. I stared at bank notices and foreclosure warnings, all addressed to Patricia and dated months ago. The building was officially foreclosed on last spring, she admitted. I've been intercepting the bank notices and hiding them from you kids. We've technically been squatting here for 8 months. Tyler stood up abruptly, nearly dropping his phone. Mom, are you serious right now? We're homeless. Not homeless, Patricia corrected quickly. We just need to find a solution before the bank realizes we're still here. Madison grabbed the foreclosure documents, scanning them frantically. This says the final notice was in March. It's October, Mom. How have we been getting away with this? Patricia glanced at me meaningfully. Because Blaine's been here. Having a steady tenant who pays utilities and maintains the property made it look like we had legitimate occupancy. The realization hit me like a freight train. My family hadn't just been underestimating me. They had been using me as their cover story for illegal squatting, letting me pay utilities and handle maintenance while they lived rent-free under false pretenses. So, when the bank does figure this out, I said slowly, I'll be the one in legal trouble for helping you squat. Patricia waved her hand dismissively. That's why we need to fix this situation quickly. You have savings, Blaine. You could buy the building from the bank and keep us all together. Madison perked up immediately. Wait, that's actually perfect. Blaine buys the building, we all stay, and everyone's happy. With what money? Tyler asked skeptically. He's got like $3,000 in savings. That's exactly what I want to know, Madison said, pulling out her phone. Brett, show him what we found. Brett smirked as he handed me a printout from some kind of background check website. Your sister asked me to look into your finances, bro. Turns out you're not as broke as you pretend to be. The document showed fragmented information about my accounts clearly from some sketchy online service. Most of it was wrong, but it had enough accurate details to make my family suspicious. According to this, Madison announced triumphantly, you've got at least $50,000 in various accounts. You've been lying to us about being broke while we're facing homelessness. Tyler grabbed the printout whistling. $50,000, dude. That's enough for a down payment on this place. It's enough to save your family, Patricia added pointedly. Unless you care more about hoarding money than keeping your relatives off the street. I looked around the circle of faces, all staring at me expectantly. They had created an entire narrative where I was the villain holding out on desperate family members. They had no idea that their desperate situations were largely self-created, funded by money I had been secretly providing for years. Madison's business was failing because she spent more on maintaining her image than she earned from actual partnerships. Tyler's music career was stagnant because he refused to take regular work that might interfere with his creative schedule. Patricia's financial crisis stemmed from trying to maintain a lifestyle she couldn't afford while enabling both of her other children's poor decisions. I want to show you something, I said, quietly reaching for my laptop. No more games, Blaine, Madison snapped. We need answers. I opened my banking app, turning the screen so they could see my checking account balance, $3,214. Exactly what Tyler had seen on my statements. There's your $50,000, I said. Brett leaned back, looking disappointed. Man, that background check site was garbage. So you really don't have money to help us? Patricia asked, her voice cracking with what sounded like genuine despair. Before I could answer, Madison broke down completely. She buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking with sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deep and raw. I can't keep doing this, she cried. My whole life is fake. My followers think I'm living this amazing lifestyle, but I haven't been able to pay my credit cards in 3 months. I borrowed money from James's friends to pay for content creation, and now they're threatening to sue me. Tyler moved to comfort her, but his own voice was shaky. My band kicked me out last month. They said I was dead weight because I can't contribute to studio costs. I've been selling Dad's tools and collectibles to pay for recording time, but there's nothing left to sell. Patricia collapsed into my reading chair, looking older than I had ever seen her. I lost your father's life insurance money in a cryptocurrency scheme someone at church recommended. I've been taking cash advances on credit cards to pay basic bills, We're not just losing the house, kids. We're losing everything." The room fell silent except for Madison's quiet crying and the sound of Brett uncomfortably clearing his throat. "I should probably go," Brett muttered, clearly uncomfortable with the family financial meltdown happening around him. "No," Madison said firmly, wiping her eyes. "You should know what you're getting into with me. I'm broke, my family's broke, and I've been lying about everything for so long, I don't even know what's real anymore." As I watched my family fall apart in my living room, I realized something profound had shifted. For the first time in my life, they were being completely honest about their situations. The golden daughter facade, the artistic dreamer persona, the capable mother image. It was all crumbling, revealing people who were scared, desperate, and drowning in consequences of their own making. That's when we heard the heavy footsteps on the stairs outside my apartment. "Blaine Morrison," a voice called through my door. "This is Sheriff Deputy Williams with representatives from First National Bank. We need to speak with the occupants of this building." Patricia turned pale. "They found us." Madison grabbed my arm desperately. "Blaine, please, tell them we're family. Tell them we have the permission to be here." Tyler was already moving toward the window like he was planning an escape route. The knock came again, more insistent this time. "We have a warrant for immediate eviction of unauthorized occupants. Please open the door." As my family looked at me with pleading eyes, expecting me to somehow save them from the consequences of their illegal squatting, I made a decision that would change everything. I walked to my desk, opened the bottom drawer, and pulled out a folder I had hoped never to need. Blaine, what are you doing?" Patricia whispered frantically. I opened the front door, facing two sheriff deputies and a man in an expensive suit who was clearly from the bank. "Good evening, officers," I said calmly. "I'm Blaine Morrison. I believe you're looking for me." The bank representative, a middle-aged man with graying temples and a concerned expression, stepped forward with a clipboard full of documents. "Mr. Morrison," he said professionally, "I'm David Chen from First National Bank. We've received reports of unauthorized occupancy in this foreclosed property. I'm going to need to see some identification and ask you to vacate the premises immediately." Behind me, I could hear my family's panicked whispers as they realized their worst fears were coming true. Madison was softly crying again, and Tyler had started pacing between the windows like a trapped animal. "Of course," I replied, pulling out my wallet, "but I think there might be some confusion." I handed Deputy Williams my driver's license, then reached into the folder I had retrieved from my desk. "Here are my property ownership documents." David Chen took the papers with obvious skepticism, probably expecting to see some kind of fraudulent lease agreement or forged documents. His expression changed dramatically as he scanned the first page. "These appear to be legitimate ownership papers," he said, slowly looking up at me with new interest. "Mr. Morrison, according to this deed, you purchased this building 3 years ago." "That's correct," I confirmed. "I bought it when the previous owners defaulted on their mortgage." Deputy Williams stepped forward. "Sir, we received a complaint about squatters in this building. The bank's records show this property as unoccupied foreclosure inventory." David Chen was flipping through more pages, his confusion growing. "I'm going to need to make a phone call to verify this information. These documents suggest you've been the legal owner since March of 2021. Patricia had emerged from my apartment, her face a mask of shock and disbelief. "Blaine, what are those papers?" Madison followed close behind, still clutching the renovation permits she had accused me of forging. Those can't be real. You don't have money to buy buildings. Tyler joined them in the hallway, filming everything on his phone again. Dude, are you actually the owner? David Chen looked up from his phone call with our bank's legal department. Mr. Morrison, I owe you an apology. Our records were apparently never updated after your purchase. You are indeed the legal owner of this property. The hallway fell completely silent. Patricia stared at me like I had suddenly grown a second head. How? She whispered. Grandma Rose left me an inheritance, I explained simply. When this building went into foreclosure, I bought it. Madison's voice rose to a near shriek. What inheritance, Mom, did you know about this? Patricia shook her head numbly. Rose never mentioned leaving money to anyone. David Chen cleared his throat diplomatically. Perhaps we should continue this conversation privately. Deputy Williams and I can verify that there are no legal issues here. Wait, Madison said desperately. If Blaine owns the building, then we're not squatters. We're tenants, right? I looked at my sister, seeing her grasping for any explanation that would maintain her version of reality. You've never paid rent, I pointed out gently. But we're family, Tyler protested. Family doesn't charge family rent. Deputy Williams was putting away his notepad, clearly ready to leave, now that the legal situation was resolved. Mr. Morrison will update our records to reflect your ownership. Sorry for the confusion. As the officers and bank representative headed down the stairs, my family remained frozen in the hallway, trying to process what they had just learned. 3 years, Patricia said quietly. You've owned this building for 3 years. And you never told us, Madison added her shock, turning to anger. You let us think we were squatters. You let me panic about losing my home. You let me sell Dad's stuff to pay for rent money we didn't even need, Tyler accused. I looked at their faces, seeing hurt and confusion, but also the beginning of something that looked like blame shifting. I let you live rent-free, I corrected. All of you. For 3 years. But you lied to us. Madison insisted. You pretended to be broke while secretly owning property. I never pretended anything, I replied. You assumed I was broke because I live modestly and drive an old car. Mrs. Rodriguez had come out of her apartment during the commotion and she approached us cautiously. Blaine, she said in her kind voice, is everything resolved with the police? Yes, Mrs. Rodriguez, just a paperwork mix-up. She smiled with relief. Good. I was worried we might have to move. You've been such a wonderful landlord, especially when my husband was in the hospital last year. Madison turned to stare at Mrs. Rodriguez. Landlord. Oh, yes. Mrs. Rodriguez continued. Blaine has taken such good care of this building. When our heat went out in February, he had it fixed the same day. And when Carlos needed surgery, Blaine let us pay rent late for 3 months without any late fees. Derek had emerged from his studio apartment, drawn by the noise. Everything okay out here? Just some confusion about building ownership, I explained. Cool, Derek said with a grin. By the way, thanks again for helping me with that scholarship application. The accounting tutoring you gave me totally saved my GPA. Tyler lowered his phone, staring at Derek. Blaine tutored you? For like 6 months, Derek replied enthusiastically. He helped me understand business math when I was failing my prerequisite courses. Wouldn't take any payment for it either. Sarah and Mike from apartment 2B had also come out to see what was happening. Blaine. Sarah called out, We heard voices. Is there some kind of problem? No problem, I assured her. Mike walked over looking concerned. If this is about that late rent payment last month, we can catch up this week. I know you were understanding about the job situation." "What job situation?" Patricia asked. Sarah answered before I could stop her. "Mike was unemployed for 6 weeks after his company downsized. Blaine told us not to worry about rent until Mike found something new. We're still paying him back gradually." Madison was staring at me like she was seeing a complete stranger. "You've been collecting rent from tenants while letting us live here free, and helping them with personal problems." Tyler added, his voice sounding hollow. Mrs. Rodriguez nodded enthusiastically. "Blaine paid for Carlos's emergency room copay when our insurance was delayed. $800 just like that." Derek joined in. "He bought my textbooks last semester when my financial aid got messed up." Sarah smiled gratefully. "And he co-signed our lease when we had credit problems from medical bills." As my family listened to the tenants describe my years of quiet generosity and support, I watched their expressions cycle through confusion, realization, and something that might have been shame. "All this time," Patricia whispered, "you've been taking care of everyone. While we treated you like you were selfish for not helping us," Madison added, her voice barely audible. The weight of their misunderstanding was settling over them like a heavy blanket. For 3 years, they had been living in a building I owned, supported by my money, while simultaneously criticizing me for not contributing to family finances. Tyler looked down at his phone, which was still recording. "I should probably delete this video." "Don't," I said firmly. "Keep it. We're going to need to have some very honest conversations about what happens next." Madison had been staring at the renovation permits still clutched in her hands. "These aren't forgeries, are they?" "No," I confirmed. "They're permits I pulled for safety upgrades I've been planning." "Safety upgrades that I was going to destroy with my renovation plans," she realized. Patricia was leaning against the hallway wall, looking overwhelmed. "Blaine, how much money did Rose leave you?" "Enough to buy this building and invest the remainder wisely." "And you never thought to tell your family?" Tyler asked. I looked at each of them, thinking carefully about my answer. "I told myself I was staying quiet to avoid drama," I said honestly. "But the truth is, I was tired of being treated like an afterthought. This was the first time in my life I had any power, and I wanted to see how long it would take you to notice I might be worth paying attention to." The hallway fell silent again as my words sank in. "We never treated you like an afterthought," Madison protested weakly. "Mrs. Rodriguez." Derek, Sarah, and Mike were still standing nearby, having overheard enough to understand the family dynamics at play. "Maybe we should let you folks talk privately," Mrs. Rodriguez suggested diplomatically. "Actually," I said, "I think they should hear this too. You're all part of this community, and what happens next affects everyone." Madison looked panicked. "What do you mean, what happens next?" That's when I pulled out the second folder from my desk drawer. The one containing 3 years of financial records that would show my family exactly how much their broke brother had actually been supporting them. "I mean, it's time for complete honesty about money in this family," I said. "Starting with how much I've been paying for things you thought you were handling yourselves." Madison grabbed my arm as I opened the second folder, her grip tight with desperation. "Blaine, wait. Before you show us whatever's in there, let me say something." She took a shaky breath, her influencer composure completely abandoned. "I know I messed up today. I know we all did. But we're family, and family should work together, right?" Tyler nodded eagerly. "Exactly. Like, now that we know the real situation, we can figure out a fair arrangement. Patricia stepped forward, her voice taking on the tone she had used when we were children, and needed to be convinced of something. Sweetheart, I can see you're hurt by how we handled things today. But you have to understand we thought we were facing homelessness. We can fix this. Madison continued, her words coming faster as panic set in. I can give you half the income from my influencer partnerships. It's not much right now, but my brand is about to take off. I just landed a meeting with a major cosmetics company. I looked at the tenants still gathered in the hallway. They were trying to appear invisible, while obviously listening to every word. Maybe we should take this inside, I suggested. No, Madison said firmly. I want everyone to hear this. I want them to know that I'm committed to making this right. She turned to address Mrs. Rodriguez, Derek, Sarah, and Mike directly. I'm Madison Blaine's sister. I want you all to know that I had no idea he was your landlord. If I had known, I never would have acted the way I did today. Derek shifted uncomfortably. It's cool. Family stuff is complicated. It doesn't have to be. Madison insisted, then turned back to me. Blaine, what if we became business partners? You own the building, I handle the marketing and social media promotion. We could turn this place into a showcase property. Tyler jumped on the idea immediately. And I could handle maintenance and repairs. I'm actually pretty good with electrical work and plumbing. When have you ever done electrical work? Patricia asked skeptically. I wired the whole basement studio. Tyler replied defensively. YouTube tutorials teach you everything. Sarah and Mike exchanged a glance that suggested they were familiar with Tyler's basement studio and its questionable electrical work. The point is, Madison continued, we can all contribute something valuable. This doesn't have to be about anyone owing anyone else money. Patricia nodded encouragingly. Madison's right. We can create a family business model where everyone benefits. I opened the financial folder, pulling out the first set of documents. Before we talk about business partnerships, I think you should see these. Madison's face went pale as she recognized bank transfer records. What are those? 3 years of anonymous payments I've been making. I explained, handing her the first page. This one shows the $1,500 I sent you last month through a Cash App under a fake business name. You posted about winning it in a brand partnership contest. Madison stared at the transfer record, her hands trembling. The Brand Boost Fund. That was you. And here's the $2,000 I sent in August when you were posting about your emergency dental work. I continued producing another document. Tyler grabbed the papers from Madison, scanning them quickly. Dude, you've been sending her money for fake contests. Not just Madison, I said, pulling out more records. Tyler, remember that radio station giveaway where you won $5,000 for recording equipment? Tyler's face went white. The KQED contest. That was you. And Mom. I added, handing Patricia a thick stack of papers. Here are the payments I've been making on your credit cards through an online service that makes it look like insurance settlements. Patricia stared at the records with growing horror. The car accident settlements. Blaine, you've been paying my credit card bills. Mrs. Rodriguez, Derek, Sarah, and Mike were now openly staring at us, no longer even pretending to give us privacy. How much? Madison whispered. I pulled out a summary sheet I had prepared months ago for my own financial tracking. Over the past 3 years, I've anonymously provided $67,000 in financial support to this family. The hallway fell silent except for the sound of Tyler's phone hitting the floor. 67,000, Patricia repeated numbly. Madison was scanning the transfer records, her face cycling through emotions I couldn't identify. All those times I posted about being blessed by the universe, about manifesting abundance. You were manifesting my bank account, I said simply. Tyler picked up his phone with shaky hands. The recording equipment, the studio rental, the music video production, all of it was your money. While you all criticized me for being selfish with my finances, I added. Derek cleared his throat awkwardly. I should probably go study now. Wait, Madison said desperately, turning to him. I want you to hear this too. I want you to understand that I didn't know. I would never have acted like that if I had known Blaine was supporting our whole family. Madison. I interrupted gently. They don't need to hear our family's financial history. Yes, they do, she insisted, her voice breaking. Because I've been a terrible person today, and they should know that's not who I really am. She turned back to the tenants. My brother has been taking care of everyone in this building, including his own family, for years. And, instead of appreciating him, we treated him like he was being stingy. I posted renovation plans for his apartment on social media without even asking his permission. Sarah looked genuinely sympathetic. That must have been really hurtful. I don't even have money for renovations. Madison continued, tears flowing freely now. I owe contractors $3,000 for work that was supposed to start Monday. I was going to ask Blaine to pay for it after I had already signed the contracts. Mike winced. That's a tough spot. Tyler was staring at the financial records like they were written in a foreign language. Blaine, why didn't you just tell us you were helping? Because I wanted to see if you would ever think to thank me, I admitted. I wanted to know if my value to this family extended beyond being a convenient source of money. Patricia was crying now, too, holding the credit card payment records. I told everyone at church that God was providing miracle payments. I gave a testimony about faith and financial blessings. God was providing, I said, through your son's inheritance and careful financial planning. Madison suddenly grabbed my hands. Blaine, I can make this right. I can post a public apology on all my social media accounts. I'll tell everyone the truth about how amazing you are. I don't want public apologies, I replied. Then what do you want? Tyler asked desperately. Just tell us what you want and we'll do it. I looked around at my family, all staring at me with pleading expressions, and realized that for the first time in my life they were asking me what I needed, instead of telling me what they required. I want you to stop assuming I'll fix your problems without being asked, I said. I want you to stop treating my generosity like it's something you're entitled to. And I want you to start taking responsibility for your own financial decisions. Madison nodded frantically. Yes, absolutely. That's completely fair. And I want you to start paying rent, I added. The nodding stopped abruptly. Rent? Patricia asked weakly. Market rate rent like everyone else in this building pays. Tyler looked around at the other tenants. How much is market rate? Oh, for the space you're currently occupying, I calculated quickly, probably around $2,000 a month total for all three of you. Madison's face went ashen. $2,000 a month, Blaine. You know, we don't have that kind of money. Then you'll need to figure out how to earn it. I said simply. Patricia stepped forward desperately. Sweetheart, be reasonable. We're family. Family that has taken advantage of my generosity for years, while criticizing me for not doing enough. Mrs. Rodriguez had been listening to everything, and she stepped forward with a gentle expression. "Blaine," she said kindly, "perhaps there could be a payment plan. When Carlos was sick, you were very understanding about gradual payments. Madison seized on this immediately. Yes, a payment plan would be perfect. We could start with smaller amounts and work up to market rate." I looked at Mrs. Rodriguez, remembering how grateful she and Carlos had been for my flexibility, how they had made genuine efforts to catch up on rent as soon as they could. Mrs. Rodriguez earned payment plan consideration by being honest about her situation and making consistent efforts to pay what she could. I said, "Can you say the same?" Madison opened her mouth to respond, then closed it as the reality of her deception over the past few years sank in. That's when my phone buzzed with a text message that would change everything again. I glanced at the screen and saw a message from someone named Jennifer at Channel 7 News. "Hi, Blaine. We got a tip about a family housing dispute story. Would you be available for a quick interview about sibling property conflict?" Madison saw me reading and grabbed my arm again. "Who's texting you?" I turned the phone so she could see the message. Her face went completely white. Channel 7. News. "Blaine, you didn't call the news, did you?" "No," I said, slowly looking around at the group. But someone did. Tyler had been filming everything on his phone. Derek was obviously texting someone. Sarah and Mike were both holding their phones. This is about to become very public, I realized. Madison looked like she was about to faint. "My followers. If this gets on the news, your followers are going to find out that your whole lifestyle has been funded by your brother's secret generosity," I said. Patricia grabbed my arm desperately. "Blaine, you can't let them destroy Madison's career over a family misunderstanding." As we stood there in the hallway, facing the reality that our family drama was about to become public knowledge, I realized that my days of quiet invisibility were officially over. The middle child, who had spent years hiding in the shadows, was about to step directly into the spotlight. Monday morning arrived with the sound of news vans pulling up outside our building. I watched from my window as reporters set up cameras on the sidewalk, while my phone buzzed with calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Jennifer, from Channel 7, had managed to reach Madison directly, apparently, after finding her through social media. The story had evolved far beyond a simple housing dispute, when Madison's followers started commenting about the family drama, after she posted a cryptic story about unexpected revelations. I had spent most of Sunday evening gathering every financial document I could find, preparing for conversations I had avoided for years. If this was going to become public, I wanted the complete truth to be available. Patricia knocked on my door at 8 in the morning, looking like she hadn't slept. "The reporters want to interview all of us together," she said nervously. "Madison thinks we should present a united front about family reconciliation." "Where are Madison and Tyler?" "Getting ready. Madison's been up since 5 doing damage control on social media." I followed Patricia to the main living area where Madison was pacing frantically while talking to someone on her phone. She had clearly been crying, but her makeup was camera ready. "No, Rebecca, you don't understand," she was saying. The story got completely twisted. My brother isn't kicking me out. We're working together to— Yes, I know how it looked on my posts yesterday. Tyler was sitting at my kitchen table with his laptop scrolling through what appeared to be social media comments. "Dude, "This is wild," he said when he saw me. "Your story is trending on TikTok. Someone filmed part of our conversation yesterday and posted it." I sat down across from him, looking at the screen. Sure enough, there was Derek's face explaining to someone off camera about how I had been helping tenants while my family treated me poorly. "Derek made us all look terrible," Tyler continued, "but also like he made you look like some kind of saint." Madison finished her phone call and turned to face me with desperate eyes. "Blaine, I need you to help me control this narrative." "What narrative?" "Rebecca from the influencer management company says I can spin this as a heartwarming family story about hidden generosity and misunderstandings. But I need you to agree to do the interview with me." I shook my head. "I'm not interested in managing anyone's narrative." "But this could destroy my career," Madison protested. "My entire brand is built on authenticity and transparent living. If people find out I've been unknowingly living off my brother's money while portraying myself as financially independent, then maybe your brand needed to be destroyed," I said simply. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Madison stared at me with shock, clearly not expecting such directness. Patricia stepped forward quickly. "Blaine, that's not fair. Madison has worked very hard to build her following." "Has she?" I asked, pulling out my phone. "Because I've been tracking something interesting." I showed them a spreadsheet I had created over the weekend. "These are Madison's actual partnership earnings for the past 2 years, based on the tax documents she asked me to help her organize last spring." Madison's face went pale. "Blaine, don't." In 24 months, Madison earned a total of $8,600 from legitimate brand partnerships and sponsored content. Tyler looked up from his laptop. "That's like $400 a month." During that same period, I continued. I anonymously provided $32,000 in financial support that she attributed to various fake contests and windfalls. Patricia sat down heavily in my reading chair. So her entire lifestyle was funded by money she didn't know came from me, while she publicly promoted financial independence and manifesting abundance. Madison was shaking now, whether from anger or fear, I couldn't tell. "You're going to destroy me to prove a point." "I'm going to tell the truth if anyone asks me direct questions." Tyler looked between us nervously. "What if we just don't do any interviews?" "Too late for that," I said, nodding toward the window. "Mrs. Rodriguez is already talking to Channel 7. We all turned to look outside where Mrs. Rodriguez was indeed speaking animatedly to Jennifer the reporter, while gesturing toward our building. Madison rushed to the window. "What is she saying?" "Probably the truth about what kind of landlord I've been." My phone rang and I saw it was David Chen from the bank. "Mr. Morrison." His voice came through the speaker. "I hope you don't mind, but we've had several media inquiries about property ownership verification. I wanted to confirm that it's acceptable to release the basic facts about your purchase date and ownership status." "That's fine," I replied, putting the call on speaker so my family could hear. "Excellent. Also, I wanted to let you know that our investigation into the foreclosure records uncovered some interesting financial information. It appears that for the past 3 years, you've been paying property taxes on this building at a rate significantly higher than required." Madison looked confused. "What does that mean?" David Chen continued. "Mr. Morrison has been voluntarily overpaying property taxes, which created a credit account that has been automatically applied to city infrastructure improvements in this neighborhood. The street lighting upgrades, sidewalk repairs, and park maintenance nearby have all been partially funded by his overpayments." Tyler stared at me. "You've been paying for neighborhood improvements." "I wanted to invest in the community," I said simply. "The total amount of voluntary overpayment," David Chen added, "is approximately $28,000 over 3 years. Patricia was staring at me like she had never seen me before. "You paid for the new streetlights on our block and the playground equipment in the park," David Chen confirmed before ending the call. Madison collapsed onto my couch, her head in her hands. $28,000 for community improvements, while I was complaining that you wouldn't help me pay for designer clothes. The room fell silent as the full scope of my financial generosity became clear. I hadn't just been supporting my family and tenants. I had been quietly improving the entire neighborhood. That's when the first knock came from the reporters outside. "Mr. Morrison," Jennifer's voice called through the door. "Channel 7 News, we'd love to get your side of the story." Madison jumped up frantically. "Blaine, please, let me handle this. I can explain everything in a way that makes us all look good." "No," I said, firmly walking toward the door. "I'm done with explanations that make other people look good." I opened the door to find Jennifer, a professional-looking woman in her 30s, with a camera operator behind her. "Mr. Morrison, thank you for speaking with us. We understand there's been some confusion about family property ownership." "And no confusion," I replied calmly. "I own this building. I've owned it for 3 years. My family has been living here rent-free while criticizing me for not contributing to family finances." Jennifer's eyes lit up with the realization that she had stumbled onto a much better story than she expected. "Can you tell us more about that?" Behind me, I could hear Madison whispering desperately to Tyler and Patricia, trying to coordinate some kind of damage control strategy. "For the past 3 years," I continued, "I've been anonymously providing financial support to family members who believed their income came from contest winnings and random windfalls. Meanwhile, they've been telling people I'm selfish with money." Jennifer was taking notes frantically. "How much financial support are we talking about?" $67,000 to family members, $28,000 in voluntary community improvements, plus free housing worth approximately $72,000 in total rent. The camera operator was getting everything, and I could see other news crews arriving on the street. "Mr. Morrison, why did you keep this support anonymous?" I thought about the question carefully. "Because I wanted to see if my family valued me for anything other than money." The answer turned out to be no. Madison appeared beside me, her influencer smile plastered on, despite her obvious panic. "Hi, I'm Madison Blaine's sister. I think there's been a misunderstanding about this whole situation." Jennifer turned her attention to Madison eagerly. "Can you tell us your perspective?" "Well, my brother is incredibly generous, and our family has always been very close. This is really just a story about miscommunication and—" And I interrupted quietly. "Stop." She looked at me with pleading eyes, but I could see the camera was still rolling. "The truth is," I said to Jennifer, "my sister posted renovation plans for my apartment on social media yesterday, assuming I would be evicted to make room for her. She had already hired contractors and scheduled demolition without my permission." Madison's smile faltered completely. "Blaine. She did this because our family has spent years treating me like I exist to solve their problems. The invisible middle child who should be grateful for any attention, even when that attention involves taking my home." Jennifer was clearly riveted. "And you never told them you owned the building. I thought if I stayed quiet long enough, Someone might notice that their broke brother was somehow managing to help everyone around him. I was wrong. Behind us, Tyler had come to the doorway. "Dude, you're making us sound like horrible people." "I'm describing your actions," I corrected. "You can decide for yourself what that makes you." Mrs. Rodriguez had joined the growing crowd of neighbors watching the news crews. She approached Jennifer with a warm smile. "That young man has been a blessing to this whole building," she announced. "When my husband was sick, Blaine paid our medical bills without us even asking. When the college boy needed textbooks, Blaine bought them. When the young couple had credit problems, Blaine co-signed their lease." Derek appeared from the crowd, clearly excited to be part of a news story. "He tutored me in accounting for 6 months without charging anything. I probably would have failed out of school without his help. Sarah and Mike pushed forward as well. He let us pay rent late for 3 months when Mike was unemployed," Sarah added. "Never charged late fees or made us feel bad about it." Jennifer was getting all of this on camera, and I could see the story shifting from family dispute to community hero piece. "Mr. Morrison," she said, "it sounds like you've been supporting not just your family, but this entire building community." "I believe in taking care of people," I said simply. "But I also believe people should acknowledge when they're being taken care of, instead of assuming they're entitled to it." Madison had been standing silently beside me, and suddenly she stepped forward toward the camera. "He's right," she said, her voice cracking. "Everything he's saying is right. I've been a terrible sister." Tyler joined her. "We all have, actually. Our brother has been taking care of everyone, and we treated him like he was being selfish." Patricia appeared last, looking older and more tired than I had ever seen her. "I taught my children that family takes care of family," she said to the camera. "But I forgot to teach them to notice when family is already taking care of them." As the news interview continued, with neighbors sharing stories of my quiet generosity, I realized something profound had happened. The invisible middle child who had spent years hiding his impact was finally being seen for who he really was, not just by strangers and reporters, but by his own family. For the first time in my life, they were looking at me with something that resembled respect. The news story aired that evening on the 6 o'clock broadcast. But by then, the real changes in our family had already begun. After the reporters left Monday afternoon, we sat in my living room for the most honest conversation we had ever had as a family. Madison had deleted all her social media accounts temporarily, saying she needed time to figure out who she actually was without the pressure of maintaining a fake lifestyle. "I've been living a lie for so long, I don't even know what I really want anymore," she admitted. Tyler had called his former band members to apologize for the equipment purchases he couldn't actually afford, then started researching trade schools for electrical work. "Turns out I actually like working with my hands," he said. "I just thought music was more impressive." Patricia had scheduled an appointment with a financial counselor at the community center, determined to learn how to manage money without depending on mysterious windfalls. "I need to understand where my spending went wrong," she acknowledged. But the real test came Tuesday morning when I presented them with formal lease agreements. "These are month-to-month rental contracts," I explained, laying the papers on my kitchen table. "Market rate for the spaces you're occupying with clear expectations for payment schedules and property care." Madison stared at her lease agreement, which outlined $800 monthly rent for her portion of the main floor space. "Blaine, I literally have $600 in my bank account." Then you have until the end of the month to figure out how to earn the rest. I said simply. Tyler's lease was for $400 for the basement area plus utilities. What if I can't find work right away? Then you'll need to find temporary work while you're looking for permanent employment. Patricia's agreement was for $700 monthly. Sweetheart, I'm already behind on my credit card payments. How can I add rent to that? I pulled out one more document I had prepared. This is a path to financial stability for all of you, if you're willing to follow it. The plan I had created was detailed and realistic. Madison would get a part-time retail job while rebuilding her social media presence around honest content about financial recovery. Tyler would start working construction while attending night classes for electrical certification. Patricia would take a part-time position at the community center where she had been volunteering. I've calculated that if you follow this plan exactly, you can all be caught up on your debts within 18 months. I explained. After that, you can decide whether you want to continue living here or find your own places. Madison looked at the projected timeline. You're giving us a chance to actually fix our lives. I'm giving you the structure you need to fix your own lives, I corrected. Tyler was studying his employment requirements. This is like actual adulting. It's called taking responsibility for your choices, I said. Patricia wiped tears from her eyes as she read through her financial recovery plan. You could have just kicked us out. You could have publicly humiliated us completely. I don't want to humiliate anyone, I replied. I want you to become the people you're capable of being. Over the following weeks, remarkable changes began happening. Madison got hired at a local boutique where her genuine fashion sense and people skills made her a natural salesperson. She started a new Instagram account called Rebuilding Madison, where she documented her journey toward financial honesty. Her follower count was smaller, but her engagement was authentic. Tyler enrolled in a construction training program and discovered he genuinely enjoyed physical labor. His music became a hobby rather than an escape from responsibility, and his creativity actually improved when he wasn't desperate for it to pay his bills. Patricia thrived at the community center, where her natural leadership skills and life experience made her valuable to other families struggling with financial challenges. She became a peer counselor for people dealing with debt and family crisis. The building itself transformed as well. Mrs. Rodriguez started a community garden in the small backyard space. Derek organized study groups in the common areas. Sarah and Mike began hosting monthly potluck dinners that brought all the tenants together. Local media followed up on our story several times, always finding positive developments to report. The invisible middle child who secretly owned the building had become a symbol of quiet generosity and family healing in our neighborhood. 6 months later, I was sitting in the same spot where I had received that devastating text from Patricia, but everything had changed. Madison knocked on my door, holding her first full rent payment earned entirely from her own work. I know I'm not late, she said with a smile, but I wanted to give this to you personally. Tyler appeared behind her with his payment as well. And I wanted to show you something. He handed me a letter from the electrical training program, accepting him into their apprenticeship program with a starting salary that would easily cover his expenses. Patricia joined us, carrying a small gift bag. I have something for you, too. Inside was a framed photo from Grandma Rose's house, one I remembered from childhood visits. It showed all of us kids helping her bake cookies in her kitchen. I found this in my old photo albums, Patricia explained. I thought you should have it since you were always her favorite for all the right reasons. As I looked at the photo, I realized that the invisible middle child had finally become visible, not through grand gestures or dramatic confrontations, but through consistent kindness and the courage to demand respect. There's something else, Madison said, pulling out her phone. I wanted to show you my latest post. The Instagram post showed a simple photo of our building with a caption that read, "6 months ago, I thought I was entitled to everything and grateful for nothing. My brother taught me the difference between being supported and being enabled. Today, I paid my own rent for the first time in years, and it feels better than any designer purchase I ever made with borrowed money." Tyler grinned as he showed me the comments. She's got like 50 people asking for advice about family financial boundaries. Turns out honesty is way better content than fake luxury. Madison laughed. Patricia looked around my apartment, which had remained exactly as I liked it, free from unwanted renovations and motorcycle storage. "I'm sorry it took us so long to see you," she said quietly. "Really see you? I'm sorry I hid from you instead of teaching you how to see me," I replied. That evening, I walked through our building, checking on tenants and handling small maintenance issues. Mrs. Rodriguez was teaching Derek's girlfriend how to make traditional enchiladas in the community kitchen we had created. Tyler was helping Mike install new shelving in their apartment using skills from his construction training. Madison was video calling with a young woman from another state who had seen her story and needed advice about setting boundaries with financially irresponsible family members. As I reached my apartment, I found a handwritten note that had been slipped under my door. It was from Emma Sarah's friend who worked at the community center with Patricia. "Blaine," the note read, "I've been watching your family's transformation over the past few months, and I'm incredibly impressed by your patience and wisdom. Would you like to have coffee sometime? Not because you're a property owner, or because you helped people, but because you seem like someone worth getting to know. Emma." I smiled as I folded the note carefully. The invisible middle child had not only become visible to his family, but to someone who saw him for exactly who he was without needing anything from him in return. Sometimes the quietest revolution is the one that changes everything by simply refusing to stay quiet anymore. Sometimes the greatest victory comes not from defeating others, but from finally demanding that they see your worth. And sometimes the best revenge against being overlooked is becoming impossible to ignore, not through anger or drama, but through the undeniable power of authentic kindness backed by unshakable boundaries. My phone buzzed with a text from Madison. "Family dinner Sunday. I'm cooking. Tyler's bringing dessert. Mom's handling drinks. We promise not to assume you'll pay for groceries." I typed back, "I'll bring the groceries, because I want to, not because anyone expects me to." For the first time in my life, the difference mattered to all of us. What would you do if you discovered that a family member had been secretly supporting you for years, while you criticized them for being selfish? Have you ever been the invisible person in your family or friend group who does more than anyone realizes? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about family dynamics and finding your voice. Share this with someone who might need to hear that their quiet contributions matter, even when others don't notice. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it reminds you that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply stop being invisible. Remember that your worth doesn't depend on other people's recognition. but your happiness often depends on demanding the respect you deserve. Take care of yourselves, and never be afraid to step into the light.